We are back. It's the Joe Holka Show presented by PrizePicks. How we doing, fam? Week 6. We are already a month and a half into the NFL season, which seems completely crazy. And I think before we even get started, I'm pumped that we're back at our normal time, by the way. But before we even get started, guys, before we do anything, like this is something that we have to talk about. So if you've been kind of like living under a rock for like the last I don't know, couple years now, and for some reason you haven't tried out PrizePicks yet, this is the time. You guys are actually getting rewarded for some reason. So they're actually going to be doing probably their best promo I've ever seen for the most part. So they have a deposit bonus, of course, the 100% deposit match, which we've had for Code Holka. But if Steph Curry gets over 1 point in opening night for NBA season, then you're just automatically going to cash. So I thought I'd just say that off the hop. If you use Code Holka and the link in the description, it's free money. So yeah, and if you don't like free money, just ignore everything I just said. But we wanted to make sure we hit that quickly. If anyone hasn't tried it yet, now's the time. How we doing, guys? I know that we were late last week, I guess right before kickoff. That's going to happen sometimes when I'm traveling. It might happen again next week, but I'm not positive. But I do enjoy the mornings a lot better. It's a lot more relaxed. It's we get some more time to get our feet set here, and got to go through some news here in a second, but I wanted to throw out some shout outs here in the chat. Been seeing these flowing all morning. I actually didn't sleep well, so I had the chat up pretty early this morning. So we got Casey Bone in here. We do have a new Hulkamaniac as well, JC Gentile. What's up, JC? How's it going, man? Richard Super's in here. Matt G's in here. Brian Alley's in here. Derek Hill. How we doing, guys? How we doing? What do you guys think of the week 6 slate so far? Derek Hill in here always dropping the major bag alert. Love that, man. Thank you for that, Brian. He says, hit that like button. Let's go. I'm not convinced likes actually do anything. They might, though. I do appreciate it. A-Web. What's going on, A-Web? Joey Donnelly's in here. Mass Breaks is in here. Third and Long's in here. We got some mods. Let's go. Bernie Carls. Winter Bell. I love that we have the chat now. Only subscribers can talk because we get far fewer bots, which is positive. Expendables. What's going on, man? Jonathan Chang. Clayton Bigsby. Greg Barker. I'm ridiculous. Who else we got in here? Chat is flowing already. You guys are excited. You guys must like this time. Actually, let's do this. Normally we start with the same exact poll, but I'm curious. Before we even do this. What is your preference? Third. Or what do you guys like? We'll try this poll first. Start time for this show. What do you guys prefer? Do you guys prefer the 9 a.m. Eastern time start per usual? I know you guys are creatures of habit. I am too. Or do you guys like the, I guess, rendition that's a little bit closer to kickoff like we did last week? So these people that are here right now, I mean, I care about you guys the most. I want you guys to help me make these decisions. Obviously, sometimes I won't be able to help it, but if more people like the one that's closer to kickoff, we could do that. So in order to place your vote, exclamation point, vote, space the number. You have to be a subscriber to the channel. We'll get into some football stuff here, but I thought this was important since we had a different show time last week and the numbers were pretty good. So curious. As you guys are voting for that, I'm going to go through some news here. So we do have some news that Alexander Madison is expected to play against the Dolphins. He's battling through that shoulder injury. There's some interesting prize picks if you wanted to go, I guess, that he's a little bit more healthy. The prize picks are super low on Madison. I was looking at those this morning. I haven't pulled the trigger on any of them yet, though. Ian Rappaport saying that Damian Harris playing would be a surprise, that hamstring injury. So it is probably Ramondre Stevenson. So we got that going for us. He's an amazing play. We'll get to him for sure in a bit. T. Higgins is optimistic that he'll be able to play with that ankle injury. We'll see how effective he is. But Jamar Chase, Joe Mixon, a lot of plays in that game, actually. Mac Jones, unlikely to play with that ankle injury against the Browns. That's interesting. I didn't realize. So Cam Akers is asking for a trade? That's interesting. We got Henderson. We got a bunch of mid-range running backs we're going to talk about that are in good spots and very cheap. Tyler Higbee expected to play. Cooper Kupp expected to play. Jacoby Myers expected to play. Nothing crazy outside of the Chris Olave inactive that we saw come through late last night. I think that's pretty much everything. You guys have to keep me updated throughout the morning so we don't miss anything else. So it seems like you guys do like the 9 a.m. start a little bit better. Okay, fair enough. I would say probably 95% of the shows will be at the normal time. Next week potentially might be our last one for a while. That'll be later, but I'll keep you guys posted. What else we got in here? More time to process and build at 9. Yeah, that's kind of how I feel, man. The only time that'll ever be later is if I'm traveling. You guys have my word on that. Outside of that, I prefer to do it this way as well. Cool. So let's go ahead and close this one out. Let's get started with the highest owned player on the slate. Who is it going to be today? We got Eno Benjamin, Tyler Lockett, Josh Allen, Ramondre Stevenson, Daryl Henderson, or other. Who do you guys think is going to be the highest owned player today? In order to place your vote, you'd have to be a subscriber to the channel. You have to be a subscriber just to talk in the chat. Exclamation point vote, space the number. Let's get our feet set here. Who is going to be the chalkiest player on the slate? And then we'll go through some of the sims on DraftKings and FanDuel. We'll have a pretty good starting point, I think. So I woke up in the middle of the night. My dog was just bugging me for some reason. Not quite sure why, or I wasn't at the time. Like, wouldn't leave me alone. It was like 1:30 in the morning. So I get up, figured that she had to go to the bathroom or something, walk out into my kitchen, and there is just dog diarrhea all over my apartment. My fiance is up north with her sister. So just me. And puke, the whole deal, carpet, tile, everything. So that's what I was dealing with at like 1 a.m. this morning. Got back to sleep for a couple hours, but got to the point where I'm like, all right, guess I'm just going to get an early start on building some lineups. So I'm actually a little bit over-prepared at this point. So hopefully I haven't overthought some of these situations. But yeah, not fun. Gotta love waking up to that. Yeah, it's never a good time. Dog flu. Hope not. She seems okay now, but these Great Danes, they've got sensitive stomachs. I'm not sure what she ate, but whatever it was not good. Normally she'll like wake me up, and apparently she couldn't wait this time. And I slept through the chaos. So not great. All right, Eno Benjamin and Ramondre Stevenson, far and away the highest owned players in your guys' eyes. You guys are too sharp. So according to Run the Sims, the number 1 and number 2 projected owned and optimal rate players are Eno Benjamin and Ramondre Stevenson. So we haven't had, I don't think we've had a slate like this quite similarly, I guess, this year. So 2 guys, massive chalk, but I mean, far and away, like any times we get an optimal rate over 20%, we're taking notice, right? That price tag for 4,600 obviously is a big deal on DraftKings this week, especially when we're trying to get in some of these studs. So on FanDuel, I imagine this is going to be a little bit different because Ramondre is so much more expensive. Ramondre on FanDuel is still the 3rd highest optimal rate player, almost 20%, even at 7,500, which is nuts. Because, guys, I mean, what's JT on FanDuel? Let's do a search. Easy game. Maybe not. Anyways, Jamar Chase is 8,100. Like, expensive players are like within range of Ramondre, and he's at 7,500. He's still the 3rd highest optimal rate. I want to say JT is like 500 more than that. Isn't JT like 8K? I'm not sure why I have to scroll down so far to find him. JT is out. Who was I thinking of? I wasn't even thinking of Jonathan Taylor. I don't know. My brain's not working. When you wake up at 1 a.m. to clean dog diarrhea. The crazy thing about the JT inactive is I've already been looking at some different overs in that game on PrizePicks. So, anyways, the price is what was standing out to me for Ramondre, regardless. All right. So I think we can go ahead and move on from that poll. You guys have already told us that is the chalk. Let's start with quarterback. Top quarterback. So we're not just talking ownership here. What do you guys think is the top quarterback play on the slate? Price considered. We got Josh Allen, Tom Brady, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Geno Smith, and other. Obviously, some of the games that we're going to be talking about today. Obviously, we're going to talk about Buffalo, Kansas City, Arizona, Seattle, Tampa Bay, Pittsburgh. Those are kind of the games that we expect to have a ton of fireworks, ton of pace. Some of the slower pace games that I'm a little bit worried about, but we might be able to find some pieces that we like. Obviously, Ramondre in that Patriots and Browns game. We got Jets, Packers, 49ers, Falcons. I think there's a few games that definitely could be seeing far fewer plays. And those are the ones that I'm the most worried about, probably. Yeah, Dion Jackson was the running back. I think I've taken 2 overs on Dion Jackson already this morning, so no idea why that JT price tag popped into my head. Maybe I should have tried to go to sleep for a few more hours, fellas. What's up, Ryan? How we doing, man? We got some Kyler love in the chat for others, but lots of Josh Allen love. So there is a lot of chalk this week. We have some lopsided polls already. How have you guys been feeling about that? Obviously, the chalk has been doing extremely well. They're the best plays for the reason, all that jazz. It's been one of the kind of key talking points over the last couple weeks. If you're playing tournaments and you're playing more of a contrarian style, it hasn't been great. But the good news about playing tournaments only is you really only have to have a couple big weeks a year to be profitable. So that's the argument to stay the course. And if it bothers you to not be able to kind of work your way through those swings, then probably playing too much action, guys. There's nothing wrong with scaling back. There's no shame in that. We do a super chat. Thanks so much for that, Greg. Lockett versus Godwin in a GPP. Yeah, so I like anything, these questions, it depends on the rest of your roster. I don't think it's like it's not like you can't play chalk. It's I just like would be thoughtful about the players that you play around that chalk. So honestly, like I think the Godwin projection has a lot more fragility to it just because you never know. If they get out ahead, they might kind of manage his load a little bit like they did last week. So in a vacuum, it's probably Tyler Lockett. But in a GPP, if people are going to be extremely scared of that injury or of that workload, I could see Godwin coming in a lot lower in single entry, smaller field stuff than Lockett for sure. Yeah. So I'm intrigued by the Lockett GPP play. Plenty of time to nap at noon. Frost. Yeah, I plan on it, my friend. I plan on it. I think Seattle-Arizona game is getting steamed really hard. Will be high owned as Buffalo-KC. Yeah, honestly, like so the Buffalo and KC game, which we'll get into a little bit deeper here, it's very condensed on which players are going to be extremely high owned. Obviously, this Arizona and Seattle game, it reminds me a little bit of that Detroit game where we had all of that value. We had all of those guys popping into optimals because of how basically the game flow is supposed to go, the defenses on both sides. It reminds me of that game. And it started to gain some steam, and it still was the game you needed. So if I'm playing Arizona and Seattle stacks, I definitely want to figure out ways to be unique with it. And I think there are some ways that we can do that. So maybe that's one of the builds we'll do later on. We are going to build 3 lineups per usual. Maybe we'll build one of those, just one with some weird stuff around it. Speaking of weird, Dustin Gill in the chat says, got to get weird this week. I agree, man. I agree. Let's get weird every week. Dominic, thank you for that $10 super chat, man. Thanks for all your help. Thanks for being here, man. That's more than enough. The super chats, the likes, all that stuff. I really appreciate it. But more than that, appreciate you guys just being here, hanging out with us on a Sunday. Does Carolina throw the #1 draft pick away for their second win under weeks? Maybe. Who knows? It is an absolute disaster there right now. So let's talk about quarterback. Obviously, Josh Allen at the top is the guy that most people are going to be focused on. He's going to be the highest owned quarterback by far. he's extremely underpriced. There's really not a lot of bad things you can say about Josh Allen. He is top 10 on both DraftKings and FanDuel. If we were to simulate this slate 10,000 times at Run the Sims. So I think that like the ceiling that he has in general, both sites, like there's really not a lot of holes you can plug in him. Like the next guy that maybe can even approach him from like a raw points perspective is probably Lamar. So I'm with you guys on this poll, but I don't think there's really a ton else to talk about there. Patrick Mahomes is interesting because he's a little bit tougher to stack just because of how different players have been kind of cycling through there. So the Kansas City offense is one that I could see, obviously, because the game is so popular, gaining some steam. But if you're trying to be more unique, it's probably the Mahomes side. So we'll talk through that. Maybe we could do a Mahomes team. That might be interesting. Noel fan, what's up, man? How we doing, Noel? Noel, I've been up basically since like 2 a.m. My dog was getting diarrhea all over my apartment. It was not a great time. So Joe's a little tired right now. Let's move on to a more fun position. Quarterback's not that fun to talk about today. Let's talk about running back. Top running back on the slate. We have a bunch of guys in the mid-range that honestly are really good plays. This is a really, really strong running back week. We got Eno Benjamin, Ramondre Stevenson. Those guys are the chalk. We also have Daryl Henderson, Kenneth Walker, Alvin Kamara, or other. Who else do you guys think is the best running back on the slate? Who's like one of your first guys in? Who are we building around? Don't be shy. We got 328 people in here. Let's try and get at least 50 votes on these polls. I don't think that's too much to ask. We used to get 100 on each of these. Lots of coffee, buddy. What's up, Mikey boy? Yeah, I'm all over the coffee right now. That's for sure. We got some Kamara love in the chat too. White rice, cottage cheese for a couple days. Yeah, actually, someone told me that rice, and you can even like cook chicken, just like boil it and don't put any seasoning on it. So a mixture of chicken and rice for a couple days usually settles the stomach pretty well. I like Benjamin. I feel like Benjamin keeps getting jammed in my lineups because of the cost. Yeah. If you've built any lineups today, building them without Eno significantly changes your build. Yeah, I'm with you. Don't get cute, play Stevenson. Yeah, I think the video probably live on Twitter right now. I was going back and looking at some of the conversations that I had with some of the guests this week. And yeah, Jake told us very early on about this matchup and how Cleveland just can't stop the run right now, no matter how hard they try. So a lot of things line up. Obviously, without Harris in this game, Stevenson's going to get an insane amount of touches for 6K. We'll say that in a great matchup. So you guys like Ramondre more than Eno, by the sounds of it. Even though Eno is significantly cheaper. Not a lot of Daryl Henderson love. Not a lot of Kenneth Walker love. Okay. Let's talk about Ramondre then for a second. And I'll give you guys another kind of look at the Sims here. So Ramondre, honestly, like, there's probably not too much more to say. Damian Harris out. Great matchup. He's a guy that we really liked even before this injury. We've been talking about him all offseason. A guy that breaks tackles against a team that's really struggling to defend the run and tackle seems bad. So, yeah, let's talk about Kenneth Walker. I think that's actually a more interesting conversation. The vibes that he kind of gives me, it's not like a Derrick Henry type of player, but it's Derrick Henry in the fact that he makes these really splash plays which can speed up the entire game. So I actually really like the idea of Kenneth Walker being a part of, I mean, basically all my stacks from that game. Because if that game hits his ceiling, I wouldn't be surprised if he had some big plays. Obviously, he doesn't catch as many passes as some of these other guys we're talking about. But I do think that he's interesting at 5,400. Daryl Henderson, I do think I will like Walker significantly more than Henderson. One of the other interesting parts of this slate is almost all the chalk is late. So that Arizona-Seattle game, that Buffalo-KC game, all late. And there's only 3 games in the late slate. So how I'm going to approach it is how I always approach it when we have chalk late, is I'm going to try and find some unique pieces around it that'll give me a high ceiling, low ownership. If things go wrong, you might see me with some weird Kyler Murray stacks or basically some one-offs with Cooper Kupp, like that type of thing. I'm not scared to late swap off of these two games if things don't go right. But if you can get some nice low ownership in the morning, puts you in a really nice spot to play some chalk the rest of the way. That's the strategy. Best slate of the year, Blaine says. I like the slate. This is the exact type of slate that I like to play. Henderson stinks. That being said, he's in my cash lineup. I think that's probably how everyone feels right now that's thinking about playing him. Yeah. So Cam Akers ruled out. We'll see if he ends up getting traded. I don't know. I don't know what his leverage really is there at this point. But definitely interesting. That 5,100, like saving that price or saving that amount of salary off of Stevenson and Walker can definitely be worthwhile in some builds. At 46, significantly cheaper. There's really just no one there anymore, right? He's not like that prototypical bell cow back, but the stuff looks pretty good, especially if he's going to be extremely involved in the passing game. Just such a great matchup. This Seattle defense is incredibly historically bad. It's very similar to what we've been talking about with Detroit since literally week 1. So I'm in on that. Outside of those guys, we do have some other votes in here. So who else are you guys on? Breece Hall. I like the Breece Hall call. Another guy that I think is going to be extremely active in the passing game, and another guy that can, just like Breece Hall, break big plays. So yeah, I think that he's a really nice pivot. I don't think he's going to be sneaky by any means, but I think he's an interesting guy too. Frost, 18 months. Who are your 1 p.m. bullets? You looking at running back? Yeah, I do like the idea of getting different at running back at 1 p.m. So some of the guys that I'm at least considering from a leverage standpoint at running back is, it feels like Nick Chubb is always that guy. But the guy I like even probably more than him is Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones, 7,600. I think that they started to give him more work last week. So even if they end up maybe if that's not an every week type of thing, but even if they end up giving him less work than last week, I still think at 7,600, it's a really nice ceiling guy that we can grab for 5% ownership or so. I actually think that Green Bay and New York Jets game is kind of interesting, to be completely honest. And that's the type of guy that if we wanted to put Breece Hall on the other side of that, we could do that. If we didn't want to play Breece and wanted to go after one of the wide receivers for the Jets, I think that's a really nice low-owned mini stack and one that I'm strongly considering on some of my main teams. Outside of that, I was hoping that Saquon and his ownership would drop a little bit. It doesn't look like that's going to be the case. So Saquon is a great play. I think in that range, I prefer Dalvin just because I think you'll get at about half the ownership. No one wants to go anywhere near this Miami game. So if you get Dalvin and Madison, he's going to play, it sounds like, but banged up. So if we start to get a little bit more receiving work from Dalvin, he could be in a really nice spot. To basically, I don't know if he's going to go and score 3 touchdowns again, but another one of those guys that if you can get him at sub 5, maybe not sub 5, sub 10 for sure in a lot of the smaller field tournaments, I think. So if you'll notice, I'm definitely not scared to pay up a little bit at running back too, because everyone is going to live in that other range. You know what I mean? I actually don't think that Dion Jackson's terrible. 5,200 in that same exact range. I definitely prefer Breece if I had to pick one of those guys. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm looking at. I think Jeff Wilson Jr. is okay too. He's probably 3rd or 4th on my list. I still, if I can get up to him, I'm really trying to get up to Aaron Jones or Dalvin. Basically, that's my plan. Fournette as early leverage. Is Fournette not going to be owned? Maybe. If that's the case, we always like Fournette. Fournette's kind of like a tweener ownership-wise for me. He's going to be lower than Saquon, but he's not going to be lower than any of the other guys we really talked about, I don't think, in that range. So I think I still prefer Dalvin and Aaron Jones. No one's talking about Lindsey, even though he split touches with Dion. Yeah, I don't know. The more I think about it, that it's kind of scary. to go near that. I'm just going to keep playing CMC. Yeah, I like this. CMC is probably going to be a guy that I'm trying to build around in my flex, but we'll see if I can accomplish that. A lot of people like CMC this week. That's interesting. Travis Etienne. See, that's kind of like a dart throw that I don't hate. Yeah. I'm definitely on Christian Kirk, who we'll get to, but that's a guy that's definitely seen a little bit more steam than I expected this week. Let's move over to wide receiver. We can always circle back to some more running back stuff, but let's start with the top end, because the top end of wide receiver I think is super intriguing this week. So we got Cooper Kupp, Justin Jefferson, Stefon Diggs, and Jamar Chase. These are like our top 4 on this slate at the high end. So if we're paying all the way up, who are we paying up for? Is it Justin Jefferson? Is it Cooper Kupp, Stefon Diggs, or Jamar Chase? Stefon Diggs in that chalky game, but obviously in a great spot. Who do we got here at the top end of wide receiver today? We'll talk through some leverage options at wide receiver too. I think that's helpful to do. I normally save that for kind of towards the end when we start building, but it's nice to kind of build up a list as we go. Jefferson explodes today. Possible. Not a lot of people are on him, that's for sure. Check settings, but pick's still blurry. That's weird, man. I hope it's not blurry. We spend a lot of money over here for it not to be blurry. But if your connection is not strong enough, you might have to keep it on a lower resolution. Or try refreshing. Diggs has been terrible against the Chiefs. Yeah, did they just sell out again against the Chiefs? I'm always like cautious to lean into those narratives because you never know. Just because Gabe went absolutely nuclear against them doesn't mean they're just going to let that happen again. You know what I mean? Looks like we're clear. I wonder why YouTube does that. We have someone like once a week say that it's blurry. I wonder if it's just connection. Let's talk about Stefon Diggs first. Honestly, like it's just such an easy single stack. If you wanted to just grab access to this game, you could probably just do that and move on and feel pretty good about it. It's going to be one of the more popular stacks of the entire week. So you're definitely going to have to do some weird stuff around it if you want to make that work. Honestly, there's really not a ton of bad things to say outside of maybe they just try and take him away. But I still think that Diggs' floor is pretty solid. The Sims tend to agree. We have Stefon Diggs as about the 8th highest on FanDuel. And we have Stefon Diggs at right around the same exact spot on DraftKings, even at 8,400. If we were to simulate this slate 10,000 times, Stefon Diggs still in about 14% of the optimal lineups. You guys can take this a few ways, though. So we talk about this optimal rate number. Just because they're high up in this list doesn't mean you cannot fade them, right? Almost 85% of the time, Stefon Diggs was not in the optimal lineup. You know what I mean? So if the ownership gets out of control, and wide receivers in particular, when there's a large range of outcomes, that's where I think it makes a little bit more sense to get unique. So that's why we've ended up on some Jamar Chase teams over the last few weeks. That's why we're on Miami a few weeks ago. These high ceiling wide receivers at low ownership typically is the approach that I'll take. But it is interesting to see that. One of the higher leverage options that's kind of popping, Justin Jefferson, even at 8,900. Sub 10% ownership, still in 17% of the optimal lineups. What do we think about the Seahawks wide receivers, though? I think we need to kind of talk through that. So we do have we got a member chat in here. Thoughts on fading Diggs to McKenzie? It's going to totally change your build, man. We'll see what happens with McKenzie if he comes back, takes that role completely back, or if Shakir still is going to get a little bit of work because he looks so good. Who knows? Evans could be great. I do like Evans today. I'm with you. Would Gabe Davis be a good pickup? Think so. What waiver wire is Gabe Davis on? It's too cheap on DK. Yeah, the Lockett price. Let's move over there quickly. And if you're just trickling in, guys, if you haven't taken advantage of this Stefon Diggs, this Steph Curry line that they have on PrizePicks right now, if he scores 1 point on opening weekend on PrizePicks, you cash the bet. So that's one that if you haven't taken the plunge yet, if you haven't used my code and gotten that $100 free bet, there's a link in the description. Please do that. But if you're going to do that, this would be a fantastic week to do that. These layups don't come around very often. So I wanted to touch on that quickly. But yeah, let's we'll talk a little bit more about Jamar Chase, Cooper Kupp as we're working through today. But let's move to probably some interesting wide receiver conversations. Tyler Lockett, Rondale Moore, Christian Kirk, Drake London, Gabe Davis, or other. Who's our top underpriced wide receiver? Got to message the Tilt Space boys quickly. We will have a Tilt Space today, I believe. There wasn't one last week. Hopefully we have a sweat. We do have a Tilt Space YouTube channel. I should put that in the description soon too. Fading Lockett today. The Cardinals don't mess around when it comes to shutting down receivers. The Cardinals don't mess around when shutting down. I love the Cardinals, man. What they aren't doing is stopping many people right now. Thanks, Tyler. Yeah, I'm always pumped for Tilt Space. Definitely gonna get a nap in at some point this afternoon. Tyler Lockett is far and away the top wide receiver, underpriced player right now for you guys. So let's talk about him and DK Metcalf. So Lockett, I guess we can. Are we concerned about the hamstring at all? Popping up late in the week. I don't believe he was on the final injury report though, so it's fine. It's his hamstrings freak me out a little bit. But yeah, he's far too cheap. 5,600 on DraftKings is definitely a guy that we want to be prioritizing. You're just gonna have to, again, the chalk doesn't necessarily mean you can't play him, but you got to do some weird stuff around it. Or are you on the side of maybe Tyler Lockett doesn't completely ruin your day? And at that point, maybe he's a guy you consider fading. DK Metcalf at 6,800 is kind of interesting. Reeves came on the show earlier this week, talked about how this team like really has struggled to stop number one wide receivers. So what's kind of interesting is everyone is on Lockett, mostly because of price. But this great game environment, like DK Metcalf, what's Metcalf's ownership going to be? Is he going to approach 20%? Probably not, right? Like he's probably going to hover around like that 15-ish range. So at that point, I still kind of like DK in this game, if I'm being completely honest. So it's kind of like one of those things where on DraftKings, he's so much more expensive. I get it. On FanDuel, he's like almost the same price as Lockett. So on FanDuel, probably just playing DK over there. Cardinals D is bad. Yeah, I'm aware. I wish it wasn't, man. Longtime Cards fan. Ryan, thought I was being slick with Lockett. You just put that on blast. Honestly, Lockett is a great play. But I don't think it's slick by any means. I think a lot of people are on Lockett today, for sure. In the Sims right now, Lockett still double digits in terms of optimal rate at that price point. We got Kenneth Walker right here as well, which is kind of interesting. Both these guys are going to be extremely chalky. Extremely chalky. What do we think about Rondale? So Rondale, only 6 of you guys have voted for him so far. And by the way, we got over 400 people in here. How in the heck do we only have 37 votes on a poll? We put these up here so this can be interactive, so that we can get your guys' take. We do this together. So if you're here for the first time, this is a collaborative experience. I like to talk through it with you guys. How am I supposed to know what you guys actually think if 400 of you are just chilling, not voting? It helps more people find the stream too. It's probably, if you're voting, it's helping probably more than even liking the video. Because then people see the chat is flowing, and then more people stop by. 8 catches for 12 yards for Rondale. Yeah, maybe. Maybe. He was, I guess the positive side is he was in the slot again last week, which, I mean, that's kind of where you want him to be at this price point. I still think Rondale's fine. If he is like lower than, if we can get him at like 15% in some tournaments, he's just going to make some builds work. It's just like Eno. He's just going to make some builds work. So I'm fine with him. I vote when I can. I'm making breakfast. Good fella, that is a great point. There are probably some people that are just listening, so that's fair. I actually have never thought of it that way. So maybe I should stop giving you guys crap about the votes. Drake London, 0 votes for Drake London. I kind of think that he's still underpriced. Do you guys disagree with me on that? He's the guy I feel like we've been playing most of the year on FanDuel just because he's kind of like that prototypical big touchdown wide receiver archetype. But I like him quite a bit. I also think that Christian Kirk, fantastic spot for him to bounce back. Christian Kirk is one of those guys that I'm like actively trying to get access to on some teams today. Thoughts on DJ Moore? I was a little bit more bearish than most on DJ Moore coming into this year. He's just never really been, I guess he's always been that guy that everyone loves, just never quite gets there. Doesn't score a ton of touchdowns. I get it, the talent, all of that, but the situation is horrendous. Horrendous. You need to take Fade Hollywood in your stack and play Benjamin Moore. Probably could do that. Yep. How do I feel about Zay Jones? I was looking at Zay Jones' prize pick earlier. I didn't end up pulling the trigger on it, but I think he's fine. Like, I almost would rather find someone down there that I think had upside and wasn't going to be owned at all versus walking into some of this cheap wide receiver chalk. Jacoby Myers, 5,300 seems too cheap. I agree. Target, he's always too cheap. Doesn't score touchdowns. The game environment, again, awful. Like, Ramondre is like really the only one that I'm kind of looking at in that game. It might not be super high scoring, but Ramondre is going to get a ton of touches. But for a wide receiver, I'm not sure that the ceiling is high enough for us, I guess is the point. What do I think of Duvernay today? I love Duvernay today. I think that's a really unique way to attack that game when everyone's going to be on Andrews, Lamar, or mini stacks, Andrews, Saquon, that sort of stuff. Yeah, Duvernay, I think, is really strong. Yeah. Henderson or Rondale PPR? I mean, Henderson's still a great play, guys. I did a full fade on Ramondre in tournaments this week. Godspeed, my man. Not sure how many teams I'll have Ramondre, but I will definitely have some. I think that that running back chalk's pretty good this week, guys. I think that this Ramondre and Eno stuff is pretty strong. The Sims agree. Like, this is, we look at this every single week. Very rarely do we see two guys at the top, basically 25+% at these prices. Am I playing too much McKenzie? McKenzie does make some stuff work. We ended up playing McKenzie on a couple builds with the guests earlier this week, too. All right, let's go ahead and close out this poll. Since no one else wants to vote, that's fine. We'll move on. Keep moving. We will keep moving. Let's talk about tight end. We were just talking about Mark Andrews. Top tight end on the slate. Price considered. Tyler Higbee, Mark Andrews, Zach Ertz, Hayden Hurst, Travis Kelce, or other. Let me know what you guys think. Let's see how many we can get on this one. But we will be doing some lineup building here shortly. We got to get through the positions a little bit. This is a week where I think you actually can learn a little bit more just by building teams. We know who the plays are at this point. You know what I mean? Zach Gentry season. This Kyle Pitts stuff. When's the Kyle Pitts stuff going to stop? Is this the week? Have enough people given up on Kyle Pitts? By the way, Drake London, top 10 in the Sims at 5,400. Yep. But no one wanted to vote for him last poll, which makes me kind of want to play Drake London. tight end in my stack and moving on. I think that's a pretty good approach this week, Joey. Yeah. What will we be doing with Mark Andrews at 7K with this target share if he was a wide receiver? Bateman out again. Giants defense, not great. It's kind of tough to argue against the Andrews stuff. Top 10 in the Sims, both sites. But it does kind of handicap your build a little bit. I will give you that. Zach Ertz in an amazing spot. Basically the best matchup possible at the tight end position. Great play. There's a lot of great plays in that game. That much we know. They're going to be very chalky as well. Tyler Higbee is one of those ones that I thought was going to be right there with Ertz from an ownership perspective. And he might be. But it looks like he's jumped up a little bit. Him and Andrews both probably like 15+%. Hayden Hurst, cheap option. Travis Kelce. What happens with Travis Kelce on this slate? Because in the very beginning of the week, I was talking about this with Reeves. It was like, all right, it's going to be all Buffalo. It's going to be all KC. And then the more people started building, the more people just started to gravitate towards Mark Andrews, which I guess we probably could have saw coming. But honestly, I thought that there'd be more people that were going to try and play Kelce today. Kelsey's getting squeezed. Yeah, I think so. You can't get in a lot of these other guys if you're going to pay up for them. I'm with you. Taysom Hill. I can't do the Taysom Hill thing, guys. On FanDuel, sure. If you want to roll the dice in a tournament on Taysom Hill, that's fine. A tight end. I don't know if I can do it on DraftKings. The guy on FanDuel that seems like pretty close to a lock is George Kittle, though, guys. You guys see his price? George Kittle's $5,700 on FanDuel. Like, is that how bad it is that we have George Kittle at $5,700? It's absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. There's actually some plays in that game, especially on FanDuel. Like Debo's too cheap, Kittle's too cheap, Jeff Wilson Jr.'s in play for sure. He's a little bit more expensive on FanDuel. But George Kittle at $5,700 is one that I'm trying to get a feel for ownership on him. Because if he's going to be even like 10%, like I think he's really strong on FanDuel in particular. No one's going to play him on DraftKings. But I think enough people are talking about him to where he's kind of one of those guys that's been steamed up a little bit. Well, I guess we didn't talk about some wide receivers that are in the 1 p.m. slot that could offer some leverage. We should do that. We do a super chat first, though. How do you like using Allen as a one-off and then building around Jefferson, Jones, Jefferson, DK? Sniper, thank you for your $5 super chat. So this is something that people used to do a decent amount. They'd play like a naked quarterback, and then they would play like basically if there were two really popular options or two popular stacks, they would basically split the difference and play one of the wide receivers, one of the quarterbacks, and try and get access to both. I don't do that very often, being honest. I think I'd rather just have the upside with the stack and take the stand. What you're hoping for at that point is that obviously Diggs gets shut down and Allen runs a couple in. But even at that point, it's probably not something that I would do. I'm big on correlation, though. I'm an overstacker. I'm a game stacker in these smaller field tournaments versus trying to get cute and pick all the right plays. It's a lot more difficult to pick a 10-leg parlay than to get one game right or get one stack really right. You know what I mean? We've seen that multiple times this year. And the same thing can happen even if it's not a chalky stack. You know what I mean? The same thing can happen in weeks where the chalk fails. Kittle's day is coming. It might be today. Let's close this one out. I want to leave plenty of time for some lineup builds today. So I think this is a really fun slate for that. Before we move on to the top stacks, though, haven't mentioned it once yet. We got almost 500 people in here, so I will do that. But want to remind everyone to check out the free newsletter, the Touchdown Press. It's basically a condensed version of all the analysis that comes up through video throughout the week, and then there's a bunch of other bonuses and stuff that goes out. It's completely free. There's a link in the description for that. And then I also have a free trial for the premium newsletter, which is the DFS and betting playbook book. That's what I started this year. So we got a bunch of Prize Picks, we don't talk about Showdown much on stream, but all of the Showdown content, almost all of the Prize Picks stuff is in the premium newsletter. So make sure you guys check that out. There's a free trial. Just try it out for a week. If you don't like it, cancel it. No big deal. Literally zero downside. So that's the homework. Check out both the newsletters. A couple new subscribers that we need to shout out here before we move on. Don Temper, appreciate you, man. Welcome in. YG Regrets, Chris Dobry. Who else? Stephen Rooney. Dominic Robinson. Michael Carls. Bunch of new subscribers. Welcome in, guys. We do this every single Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern time. And it's a show I look forward to every single week. Let's go back to the polls. Top game stack. Sub-only vote. We got Buffalo at KC, Arizona at Seattle, Tampa Bay at Pittsburgh, New York Jets at Green Bay Packers, Baltimore at the Giants, Cincy at New Orleans. These are like the top options, in my opinion, for game stacks. So as you're placing this vote, keep in mind, you can get contrarian elsewhere. So like just in general, which stack you guys think is the best for this week? From a tournament perspective, what games do we want to be overweight on, regardless of all the other stuff going on? Can we build differently in some of these games, or do we want to go off the board with one of these other games? So we're going to build 3 teams together. We're going to build 3 that win these polls. So the 3 highest on this poll. This is one that we're going to leave up for a little bit. We got to get to at least 100 before we build teams. But I want to make sure that we're doing 3 builds for the games that you guys want to talk about. There's only one option here, Cadeau says. Fair enough. Fair enough. Brian Alley, just found you. Appreciate your time and effort. Thanks for being here, man. I appreciate that. A lot goes into it every single week between coordinating the guests, editing, researching, getting the thumbnails set up. I have fun with the thumbnails. I know they're probably a little bit cringe. I think they're funny. People take themselves way too seriously. If you're watching someone on a Sunday morning that tells you they have all the answers, you should probably run the other direction. It's all about just trying to figure this thing out together. I've been fortunate enough to have been profitable and successful doing this for a really long time, so I can give you kind of my take on kind of how some of this stuff, basically, I mean, it's the same lessons over and over again. If you played these slates enough times, they kind of rhyme after a little while. And if you've been playing it successfully for a long time, I'm just trying to give as much of that knowledge to you guys as possible so that you can not make some of the mistakes that I made early on, and then hopefully have some fun, make some extra cash. It's part of the reason that PrizePicks has been so fun. It's just, it's super soft in comparison to DraftKings and FanDuel. I'm having fun with it, especially for the island games. I'm having fun even like figuring out which ones and which picks to put in the newsletter. Because it's like picking between like, I don't know. There's a lot of good stuff, we'll say that. I got the threads going out on Twitter for some PrizePicks stuff as well. Those are usually some of the more obvious ones. But it is a really good time. That's your all-time #1 advice, and it's so true. Yeah, it's like anything. It doesn't even have to be DFS and betting and all that stuff. Like, it could be a finance YouTuber that's telling you that he has all the answers, stock picker, whatever it may be. Like, more often than not, like, run the other direction. We got 500 people in here. I appreciate you guys. If you are here for the first time, I would love it if you would consider subscribing to the channel. We really appreciate it. So we're going to build 3 teams here shortly. We've gone through all the positions. We're going to talk through some late swap stuff. But I know you guys want to get to the builds. I think you guys have been kind of enjoying that. So far, we're building an Arizona and Seattle team. We're building a Buffalo and KC team. And we're building a Tampa Bay and Pittsburgh team. But I want this to get up to 100. At least 10% of us to vote right now would be great. And then we could make sure we got a good mix of what you guys want to see. Already subscribed and liked, my guy, Fantasy Dog. Appreciate you, man. Brady, thanks so much for saying that. Mini versus Miami could be sneaky. You think they can fight back enough? I don't mind mini stacks maybe, but I'm not exactly sure what to do with mini. Obviously, my favorite play, I mentioned it earlier in that game, is probably Dalvin. But I'm warming up to Jefferson a little bit. I didn't realize how well he was performing in the Sims until this morning. So some of the leverage options, so obviously we're picking a lot of chalk here with the stacks. So once this gets up to 100, we'll lock in our top game stacks. But so we're going to need some 1 p.m. players that'll offer us a decent amount of leverage. We already talked through running backs. I think that Aaron Jones super interesting. I really like the idea of Dalvin Cook. I think if you wanted to maybe try and make one of these cheaper guys work at running back, you could. At wide receiver, Adam Thielen kind of pops a little bit in that game. Michael Pittman's going to be like sub 5%. Talked about Justin Jefferson. I don't know if I have the stones to go to Tyreek or Waddle, but they're going to be unowned. We're just talking about ceiling and low ownership. Those kind of guys stand out. Mike Evans, if he ends up being like sub 10%, Mike Evans is one of the best plays on the slate. And then we have these guys that are banged up. Like, do you want to take a chance on Godwin? Those are the kind of things I'm looking at. Kittle, obviously, if you're trying to get unique at tight end early on, these Kittle stacks are interesting. Kittle, London, something like that. Little mini stacks. Because if we're going to be playing these chalk games, we need to find some 1 p.m. stuff that's a little bit unique. That's my take on it. Cousins double stack. Onslaught, Minnesota. We must have a lot of Minnesota people that watch this show. The Minnesota love is always flowing in the chat. If anyone has ever had Vikings games, let me know. We'll have a beer. I got to meet Frost a couple weeks ago, so I'm always down to say hi. All right, so we got Buffalo, KC, Arizona, Seattle. Looks like Baltimore and the New York Giants has kind of picked up some steam here. This is why we're leaving it to 100. We got 72 right now. We're going to leave it to 100 to make sure who's going to get that last spot of a team we build. Is it going to be Tampa Bay and Pittsburgh, or is it going to be Baltimore and the New York Giants? Come to the Bills-Fins game. I have been to a Bills game, but I went to the Tampa and Buffalo game last year. Swaggy thinks that we steamroll the Chiefs today. It could happen. How does that game go wrong? Is it like a situation where Buffalo's defense plays extremely well? Because I kind of have a little bit of interest in Buffalo defense on non-Buffalo KC teams. They're super cheap. All right. It looks like we got Baltimore and the Giants in the last spot. We got about 73 votes. I think that's enough to build at least. We'll start with one team. We'll start with Arizona and Seattle since it's the most popular one. And I'll put this in the power sweep. So the $150 3 max on DraftKings. We'll do that. Don't dupe me. Doesn't help anyone if you dupe me. I'm going to throw this in the Millie Maker too. So unless you want to split it, probably do some sort of combination here. All right. So what we got to think through here, obviously it's going to be the chalkiest game on the slate. So there's two options here. We could just play the other side of it, play the Geno side, which would be a little bit more unique. But let's find a mini stack that we really like first. So we talked about the Aaron Jones. I don't know if Garrett Wilson is 5K. Elijah Moore, about 5K. We could go Brees. I don't know if I want to go Brees and Dalvin. We could go like Brees and Jefferson. What do you guys, or Brees and, Aaron Jones. We could go like Brees and, I don't mind. You guys think that we could go Brees and Aaron Jones, or would you guys rather grab one of Elijah Moore or Garrett Wilson? Dupes. Brees dupes. Well, we're definitely playing Aaron Jones. I've talked about him enough, so he's going to be on this team. We got mixed reviews on Jones. I want to have a jet on this team. We could do a one-off. Is there another mini that we really like? So we got this Minnesota-Miami game. We got this Tampa game. We got Stevenson that we could have access to. I want to like, what are some unique pieces that we like for mini stacks? Brees. Everyone is saying Brees. All right, maybe we go Brees and Aaron Jones. I suppose like if Brees is going to have a day, a lot of it's going to be through the air anyway. So maybe this is a unique little mini stack to have to start. So let's get started with that, and then let's figure out what we want to do with this Arizona and Seattle part. So I think what I'm going to start doing with this, I'm going to close this poll. I'm going to let you guys pick the quarterback. How's that? For each of these teams. So for this one, we got Kyler, we got Geno. Then we're going to do a quick poll. There we go. What quarterback do we want here? Do we want Kyler or do we want Geno on this team? We're building this together. This is not like, hey, Joe's going to build a lineup and you guys just chill. Like, we're going to build this thing together and I'm going to put it in a tournament. We got Kyler pay up for Hollywood. We got some Geno love. Lockett Walker. Geno Smith. Geno's the better QB. Whoa, that's bold, Frederick. Those be fighting words. You think Geno's a better QB than Kyler? Oh, man. I hope that's not true. This is a pretty close vote. You guys are actually going to have to vote on this one. So we got 18 for Kyler, 11 for Geno right now. And that's how we're going to build these stacks. I'm going to put it in your guys' hands. The Geno stuff I still can't get into, Derek says. All right. Every pod I've listened to has made this the game to get away from KC Buffalo. Oh, this game's going to be massively popular, man. This is not a contrarian pivot in any way, shape, or form. This is pretty tight. It looks like Kyler so far, but I feel like I got to let this roll a little bit. We're like half and half right now. 23-20. If your vote hasn't gone through, you have to put an exclamation point before vote and then a space and then the number. That's the only way that this will work. Oh, this is the best battle we've had so far. 25-24 right now on Kyler versus Geno. So if you're watching this right now, we need you to contribute to this so we can actually get the right quarterback in here. We'll talk about the guys that are going to go with them in a second. But this is a crazy vote. I'm actually just going to sit back and enjoy this. Keep in mind, we've already got Aaron Jones and Breece Hall in this lineup. From a defense perspective, as you guys are voting for our quarterbacks, and oh, Geno took the lead. We could put a placeholder defense in there. You guys know what I like to do at defense. I very rarely play a 1 p.m. defense because I want that late swap equity there on basically the position that's the most random. So at 4 p.m., there's only 3 games. I like the idea of playing Buffalo just because this is going to be a heavy team on Arizona-Seattle. So Buffalo defense, how does that game fail? Maybe it's Buffalo's D plays extremely well. They're only 2,700. So I'm going to put Buffalo on this. I just think that makes a lot of sense. And they're cheap. Kyler is barely winning. This is going to be of all the polls, this is going to be the one that gets the most votes. You guys are funny. 45-44. I don't think I can call this until it like actually one of these guys breaks away a little bit. You guys are legit split down the middle on quarterback right now. This is wild. 47-44. Should we cut it at 100? Win by 5. So okay, we'll do this. Once it gets to 100, whoever wins by 5 after that, that's the quarterback we'll go with. Can't waste too much more time. 49-44 right now with Kyler. Nathan Brown, Kamara. What's Kamara's ownership going to be? He's way too cheap. All right, as of now, if Kyler gets 4 more votes. All right, Kyler Murray is the winner, I believe. if we hit 100. All right, Kyler Murray's the winner. So we hit 100. Kyler's up by 8. Kyler's the winner. All right. That was a crazy pull. So we got Kyler. So there's a couple different ways we can go about this. We could, in theory, if we wanted to play the cheaper options, we could. They're going to be extremely chalky. So on the Arizona side of the ball, the only way we probably get, Hollywood's still going to be drawing ownership. I guess think once people start building, he's a harder guy to put in your team. You know what I mean? It's like from a ceiling perspective, like Marquise Brown, if we get him at 15%, I think we're pretty pumped. So we're going to put Marquise Brown in there. And since we used up 2 running back slots, I think this is maybe an Eno fade for me. So we could go Ertz. We could go Marquise Brown, Ertz, and double it, bring it back with Lockett and Metcalf. We could bring it back we could just fade Lockett on this team. I want this to be an overstack of Arizona, but we're getting tough on salary here is the problem. Play AJ Green, no way you get duped on that. Oh man, I actually took some AJ Green overs today because the PrizePicks stuff was so low, but I don't know if I can do it in DFS. Run it back with Will Dissly. That's intriguing. Are we going to put real American dollars behind Will Dissly? He's 3,100. Play Lockett, fade Metcalf. Kenneth Walker is the one that I think Metcalf is the one that we have to go with just because he's going to be much lower, but we're getting tight on salary is my problem here. So if we wanted to just add Ertz to this, we could. So I guess we could do this. Eno versus Ertz, because that's going to give us some savings. I definitely want to double Kyler. I'm just trying to decide between those two for the most part. Agree on DK. Ertz is just in such a good spot. Shapes up so well for DraftKings. I'm pumped we're getting Hollywood on this team. I feel like Zach. So what do we think about like Zach Ertz versus Hollywood? I feel like if Marquise Brown has a big day, we've seen him even be used like close to the goal line. Both of those guys going off makes me slightly nervous. I think I'm going to add Eno to this team. Just because we need some savings. I'm not going to triple Kyler. If we put Metcalf in, how much trouble are we in salary-wise? 4K. It's not the worst. It's not the worst. So if we did... Are we unique enough just with the Aaron Jones and Breece Hall? I don't think we are. So at 1 p.m., is there like a tight end that we think is reasonable for leverage? We can't afford Kittle on this team. Hayden Hurst at 3,300 I think is kind of interesting. If we put in Hurst, what does that leave us with? 4,700 for a wide receiver. Pickens, Claypool, Valdez-Scantling, Cobb, Gage, Duvernay. That's not the worst. We can't quite add to our stack with Romeo. That would have been nice. Couple Duvernays in the chat. Could do that. Slayton. Ugh. Couple Duvernays I'm seeing right now. How do we feel about Duvernay? So I guess we're playing it that way too. So a piece that's like sub 5% or 5% or so. Then we get some Andrews leverage, which I like. I do like that. Let's go Duvernay on this team. What do you guys think about this one? I guess this one-off is kind of bothering me a little bit. But I think that the Duvernay-Hurst combo isn't terrible. It's Gentry. That's true. Could have done Gentry. What would that have opened up for us? Let's just see what it would be if we put Gentry in that wide receiver spot. 5K at tight end. This doesn't really do a whole lot for us. I think I prefer the Hurst Duvernay. Duvernay to get leverage off of Andrews. I don't know why I'm trying to put Andrews on this team. So basically, this is the Buffalo KC build where that game fails, essentially. Oh, the tight end. Yeah, I'm a moron. 2,600. So mega punt. That gets us to Drake London. That's kind of interesting. Or Ayuk. So it's basically Hurst Duvernay versus Gentry London. What do you guys think? London on FanDuel. Myers as a Stevenson pivot. I didn't think about that. So basically, our decision is, do we want Duvernay to leverage off of Andrews, or would we want some leverage off of Ramondre? Honestly, I still think it's Duvernay. I think I prefer that one. We had a lot of Duvernays in the chat. I'm going to try and break ties by the names I see in the chat a lot. So let's go with that for now. I'm hitting send on that team. So now the other team that we have to make, we do have to make a Buffalo team at some point. Myers all day. We have some people. Yeah, Duvernay is better. The team is locked. So I got to close this poll. And then I got to make a new quarterback poll. That's not what I meant to do. Cancel. So now we got to decide between Allen or Mahomes. The second team. Who's it going to be? Let's see if we can have another close poll. Do we want a Josh Allen team or do we want a Patrick Mahomes team? Exclamation point, vote, space, the number to place your vote. And guys, just because you didn't get your players in doesn't mean you can't tweak kind of the lineup that we just built. Put the guy you want. If you want to play this on like a $1 lineup, 25-cent lineup, whatever. I will have that in the power sweep and the Millie Maker. Duvernay's going to be chalk. I thought he was going to be not super low, but he's going to be like under 10%. I think he's okay. Like, the people that are playing that game are playing Lamar, they're playing Andrews, and they're playing Saquon. Duvernay, I think, is going to be lower than all of those people. We got another tight vote here. Allen versus Mahomes. Who's it going to be? The one thing that is unfortunate is the mini stack is going to have to be a little bit cheaper for the 1 p.m. on this one. Because the guys are expensive in this game that we're going to want to play. Is Andrews chalk this week? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I didn't think he was going to be at the beginning of the week, but as of now, definitely chalky. Yeah, honestly, I think Duvernay's. I don't think he's going to be super popular. I think that team's fine, honestly. Doesn't have Lockett in it. Doesn't have Walker in it. We still faded a good amount of chalk in that game. Doesn't have Ertz in it. Wait, maybe it does. No, it doesn't have Ertz. We went with Eno. Eno and Hollywood. So Allen is leading the way still. We won't let this one go forever. Looks like he's pulling away a little bit. So if we're going to play Allen, we definitely need to find a mini stack that we like. That's a little bit lower owned. We got the Aaron Jones and Breece Hall on the last one, which I think is pretty sharp. Panthers D is the lowest value. Panthers D is going to be very chalky, my man. But They are a later one, which I like. You guys know I like playing the later defenses, and they're extremely cheap. So like this team in particular probably does make sense to have Carolina. We can always move it to like Seattle or Arizona in late swap. But for now, I think I'm just going to put in Carolina as a placeholder. Actually, should we just pick Seattle defense or Arizona defense now and just play the inverse, basically like what we did last time? Do we find a way to like play the Arizona defense against Geno or something like that? I don't hate that. Would you guys rather try and make an Arizona D team work or a Seattle D team work? Let's do it. Let's. I mean, if that game's gonna be so chalky, let's get another. I like Jags D. I like all those Ds. Like my main strategy is to play defenses at the later slate, because then you can always get lower ownership and pivot if you need to. I very rarely play chalk defenses in general, though. You guys should know that about me. AZD for a couple people. Yeah, maybe Geno's just terrible, guys. Let's see if we can make an Arizona defense team work. That'd be fun to cheer for. They're gonna be unowned. 3,300 is going to be tough, especially if we go the Josh Allen route, which it looks like. So we got over 50 votes. Josh Allen does look to be the winner. So we're going to build a Josh Allen side of this stack. So let's figure out a mini stack, though. We are going to need to find something a little bit cheaper than the last one. So I did really want to make a Dalvin team work, but as of now, that might be a little bit tougher to do on this build. One of the things that I thought was, what do we think that Christian Kirk is going to be at? Speaking of the Jags. Christian Kirk's probably going to be too chalky. What if we did like a mini stack with like Kirk and... What if we did like a Kirk and Pittman? Something like that. ETN, maybe. I'm trying to think of a lower owned mini stack. Pittman was one of the guys on my list of someone with a pretty high ceiling that's just not going to be owned. We could do a Kittle London, which might be unique because in this game, I think more people will have Kelsey. That makes sense to me. Let's try that. And no one's going to play Kittle on DraftKings. And I do like London a lot. So maybe that's our mini. London's not going to be too chalky, right? Maybe he is. 14-ish, like maybe 15. Is that too chalky? Is there another guy in Atlanta that we'd rather play? I guess that combination shouldn't be super popular, though. I think I'm okay with it. The London Kittle. ETN Pittman. That could work. I'm seeing a lot of ETN in the chat right now. What if we go ETN Pittman and then we try and build around Josh Allen? I don't know if we'll be able to do it. But we're going to have to, like I said, this team's going to have to look a little bit different, right? Pittman's going to be super low. Do we prefer Pittman versus a cheaper option like Dion or Pierce? I'm always in, like, these type of players, I like to get a little bit more ceiling, though, so that's why the Pittman stuff stood out to me. Frost is with you there on Rodney. What did Rodney say? Gentry Evans. Pierce. You have some Pierce love. 4,300. Andre Cooper. Pierce. Pierce greater than Pittman. This is interesting. A lot of people want us to play Pierce for some reason. What is his comp? Alec Pierce. I don't know enough about him as a player. So this is typically what I'll do. Cody Latimer is his closest comparable. Good measurables, though. 90th percentile, 40-yard dash, 95th percentile, speed score. What? I shouldn't be like really like struggling with this right now, but I don't know if we have the salary to get to Pittman on this one. But is an ETN Pierce mini stack going to move the needle for us? I don't know. Someone thinks Jordy Nelson. Let's put Pierce in there for now. We can always figure out a way maybe to get up to Pittman. That gives us a lot more salary to work with. So if we are going to try and make Josh Allen work, to Diggs or not to Diggs, basically. So let's think about other leverage spots here as well. Like, so far, we have Kittle. We're on a lot of Josh Allen teams, probably going to make Kelsey or one of those guys work. So that's a little bit more unique. So we got Kittle and London mini. We got the ETN Alec Pierce mini. What do you guys think about Singletary at 5,900 in this game? Since he was so active in these games where they really needed to win, Singletary is like a guy that really kind of stands out to me as like someone that we could put on this team. So what happens if we do put Diggs on this squad? 4,400. What does that get us on KC? Nothing. 100 away from MVS. And MVS is going to be pretty popular. We could always adjust defense. CEH. CEH is going to be unowned. CEH is too expensive. He's 6,300. McCole Hardman, gross. MVS. MVS is just, do we really want to run into a 15% MVS? I don't know if we do. I don't know if we do. We could take we could just go just on the Buffalo side and just hope the KC stuff is like so spread around that none of those guys get there. I actually don't hate that idea. Because 4,400 would get us Eno, which I don't hate. Do we have to have a bring back on this? Probably, right? Oh, we actually don't have enough for Eno. 4,600. Excuse me. McKinnon. We got some McKinnon love here. Let me take a closer look at McKinnon. $4,700. He doesn't fit this build. Unless we switch defenses. Shakir. I really do want to have at least one Diggs team. And I'm kind of set on the Singletary stuff. So I think that that's an interesting way to stack that. Maybe we don't have a bring back. It's kind of what I'm thinking. Just play the buff below. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking, Justin. It's kind of what I'm thinking. So then the decision becomes what to do with this last slot. Or do we want to move some other stuff around? If we move to Arizona, if we move to Seattle D, we can get to 4,900. Then we could play Eno if we wanted to. We're not going to probably do that against Seattle, I guess. What does 4,900 get us? Does it get us anything interesting? Then we could probably play Juju, I believe, right? But all those guys are just going to be like, Juju's going to be like the one guy that's like, we're still 300 away from him anyway, so I guess that doesn't fit. We got a lot of Juju in the chat, though. Switch out ETN for Zay. Oh, that could work. We had so many people say ETN, though. I hate taking him out. Let's think about some of the other really chalk pieces, right? What else are we trying to leverage here? Just in general. So right now we have very unique running backs. So we can probably afford to play Eno, Ramondre, one of those guys, Kenneth Walker. We could play Kenneth Walker, figure out a way to make that work with Seattle D. So what happens if we put in Walker? London was like the one guy that I wasn't really in love with the ownership. So I guess it's to 4,900. We're always, I guess that would get us the MVS bring back, which we didn't love. Is playing Kyler Stacks a good idea to get different and off Eno? I think we made a Kyler team already. Am I not interested in Henderson at all? I think Henderson's fine. I'm just trying to think of, yeah, you know what? Maybe Henderson would make sense on this team. He's going to be a little bit lower. Gives us some late swap flexibility. What happens if we do this? Henderson, and then we go back up to Cardinals. That gets us 4,700 at a wide receiver. That's the MVS range if we wanted it. Juju and Slayton. Everyone's all over Slayton. Is that going to be the one that I don't play that ends up burning us? What do the Sims say? So right now we have 4,700 left. Higbee is the first one in that price range that, well, Eno. But we already have 3 running backs, so we can't go Eno. I don't mind the Cardinals Henderson. Already got ETN and Singletary, so like in general, our running backs are a little bit more. Let's just mess with this for 2 seconds. I want to see, what does Ramondre leave us with? 3,800. Is there like an epically cheap wide receiver that we like that correlates us here? There's Slayton. You guys keep bringing up Slayton. It makes me want to play him. Could play Shakir. Oh, man. The Slayton stuff. Slayton is a puke play. You guys got to talk me through the Slayton thing. I get he got some targets last week. 3,800. 7 targets last week. Agnew or Shakir. Yeah, we could just add to our Bills onslaught here. Show the full page. Sorry, stop yelling at me. Yikes. Honest mistake. Vincent, can't talk you into Slayton. I'm not convinced. Slayton and Juju. That's just a weird combo, I think, man. Wandale probably plays today, they said. Okay, yeah, the Wandale stuff makes me nervous. I don't really want to go with that. We could just add Shakir to this and just Buffalo onslaught, which I don't hate. Maybe we do that and just hope that he plays a decent amount still. Like, who else in this? How is this a unique Allen stack is like the question I'm asking myself, you know? Singletary is going to be low. McKenzie and Shakir are both going to be pretty much unowned. Sky Moore. Slayton wakes you up at 1 a.m. with diarrhea. Too soon, man. Let's see. KC. The Sky Moore, like, is that the unique play we want? Is that the stand we want to take? Slayton is leverage off Barkley. That's true for us. Are we worried about thank you for that super chat, man. Are we worried about, I don't know. That's like the one that you guys are all trying to talk me into, that no Sky. Knox and McKenzie back. How many snaps will Shakir get? That's possible. Yeah, that's like an easy 0 in there, maybe. No thanks on Sky. Okay, so, oh, this is with Stevenson. So if we move this down to Seattle, is there a piece that we would like on the Cleveland side that would give us some ceiling and some lower ownership? I mean, it's all going to be low owned. DPJ, 3,900 would work. Could do that. Then we got, this doesn't get us London, right? That was our problem before. Yeah, London's way more. Oh, yeah, I could call on Singletary and Stevenson. I probably would have fixed that after the stream. I'm a crazy person with that. I feel bad not going with any Stevenson whatsoever. So that's kind of what led me here. So we got the Kittle one-off. We got Pierce, ETN, Mini. So I think we're relatively unique right now. Singletary, Diggs, Allen, no one on the KC side. So the decision is probably DPJ versus a bring back on the KC side. So DPJ versus Sky Moore or Hardman. So that's the decision. Then we'll move on. So DPJ versus the Sky Moore bring back, essentially. Or Slayton. See, I don't want to get in the habit of just doing all these one-offs. You know what I mean? Yeah, I don't think I'm going to do the Slayton thing. DPJ. Callaway. Slayton. We got a lot of people that want us to play that too. What's Callaway looking like? Let me look at that for a second. Nah. I'd rather get the correlation, I think. Time for a poll. Should we do a poll for the last man in? All right, sure. This is an important build for us right now. So we got 4,300 to work with. Last man in is the name of this poll. So we got Sky Moore. The Slayton fits on this, right? He was like 38, yeah. Got Sky Moore, Slayton. It's gonna be a quick and dirty poll. Who else were we thinking about here? Oh, DPJ. Bring back. And then we said Shakir. Just the onslaught, the Bills onslaught. Buffalo D and Jam Rondale. Yeah, I probably don't want Buffalo D on the same team as. Is there anyone else that Zacchaeus fits? Zacchaeus just seems like such a low floor play or low ceiling play. But that's true. That gives us another mini stack. He's 4K. I don't hate that. I'll add him to the poll. And then the last option. All right, here's the poll. Here, I'll just move this up a little bit so you guys can actually see it. And I guess that's good enough. Sky Moore, Slayton, DPJ, Shakir, Zacchaeus, none. This team's trash. Who's the last guy in? I'll leave it up to you guys. We got 500 people watching this build right now. I love that. Thanks for being here, everyone. If you are here for the first time, hit the subscribe button. Check out the free newsletter. There's a free trial for the premium newsletter as well. That's where all the Showdown and most of the betting content goes out. For the love of God, take advantage of that Steph Curry PrizePicks thing that you see on the screen. Who's going to win this last man in? None. This team is trash. That could win too. Darius Blake's a Slate. Slayton is leading the way by a significant margin right now. 24 votes. We got to get to at least to 50 because this is a big team. So as of now, we got Josh Allen to Stefon Diggs to Singletary. No one on the KC side. We got a George Kittle one-off. We got a mini stack with ETN and Pierce. And then we have Seahawks D. If we do Slayton, we could play Cardinals D, which is kind of nice. Camden, thank you for that super chat. Appreciate that. Put Isaiah McKenzie in for Singletary. He's only 5K and going to get much more than him. Then you have an extra 900. I'm kind of in on Singletary, man. In games that really matter, Buffalo's Played Singletary a ton, and there's been a lot of checkdowns. And McKenzie, coming back from injury, I think McKenzie's fine. I'm just trying to make a unique Josh Allen build for the most part. 34 votes, Slayton leading the way. I'm going to let this go for another 10 minutes, so get your votes in or forever hold your peace. Correlation should be the tiebreaker here. Our correlation's pretty good right now so far. So I want you guys to make this call. Slayton on Sims. Oh, God, probably not. Let's see. Slayton is still scrolling. Still scrolling. Slayton is in the optimal lineup 1.8% of the time. He's around guys like AJ Green, Kenny Pickett, J.K. Dobbins, Rashad White. So he's down there. He's down there. All right, we're doing it. Slayton, last man in. We still have one more team to build. That one took us a while. The last team was yes, I remember now. It was Baltimore. Let's close this poll. Complete it. Let's get our quarterback. I'm not going to run a poll for this one. We're just going to make a Lamar team. You can't make me play a Danny Dimes. You guys can make me do a lot of things, but that's not one of them. This is going in the power suite. We're not just going to throw away $150. All right, Lamar. We going just to the Lamar Andrews skinny here. My only concern is that anyone that plays Lamar is going to have basically the same exact team. That's my concern. Defense-wise, we could put in our placeholder Panthers for now, just to leave it there, roughly. Mikey boy, what's up, Mikey boy? You're saying there's a chance. I'm not playing Slayton on both teams, though. So you guys got your Slayton team. He will not be on this one. Double with Duvernay. We could double it, yeah. Could double it. So just do add Duvernay to the stack. Or, so since we played Kittle on the team where most people probably would play Kelsey, what do you guys think about playing Kelsey on the Lamar team? Is that crazy? Lamar Andrews, no bring back. Andrews. Double with Duvernay. Is the Kelsey thing terrible? You guys can tell me if it's terrible. Or naked. We're not going naked. Kelsey or Andrews. All right, well, let's think through this a little bit. So now this is our only one that we have that's at 1 p.m. So we don't have to have like a crazy mini stack by any means. But I did really want a Dalvin team. That's one of like the leverage options that I wanted to get in that we haven't gotten in so far. I like the Dalvin stuff. I liked Pittman, but we couldn't make it work. We probably don't have anything on the Miami side, but I like the Dalvin one-off quite a bit. Isn't there no way Kelsey gets there without Mahomes? Could be. It's terrible, James said. Kelsey gave Andrews, Kelsey. I don't want to play both of them. You know who would save you a ton of money? Slayton. Yeah. Let's do... I'm just putting him in right now because I did want a Dalvin team. We got my Kittle team. There's another wide receiver I was trying to get. We have no Mike Evans right now, which seems bad. But we probably need something that's a little bit cheaper than that. Cut more. Marta Andrews, no bring back is different enough. I don't know. Slayton is the play here easily. We already have a Duvernay team, right? Duvernay was on the first one, I'm pretty sure. Let me check that. We already have a Duvernay team. So I don't really want to play two Duvernay. Maybe we just figure out, this is probably more tactical. Let's figure out how to make a Lamar and Andrews team and then something unique around it. So just skinny stack, we'll go from there. So let's figure out let's make this team a little bit more weird. So we could do you have that many we already went through? I wish there was someone on Miami that I was like falling over myself to play, but there really isn't. Lockett is too cheap. Very true. What's Kamara's ownership going to be like? Kamara was another guy. I just don't know if we can afford him on this build. Oh, Kamara's going to be chalk. Henderson at running back. So which chalk running backs do we have so far? We have a Stevenson team. We have an Eno team. Let's do a chalk piece of this. Oops. Edmonds Hall. Yeah, I'm going to look at Miami in a second. I do kind of want to get at least one Kenneth Walker, and he's a nice flex. We did end up moving away from... here, I'll just do this for a second. Walker. We did end up moving away from the Seattle D on the other one, so maybe we do a Seattle Kenneth Walker. On the Miami, is there anything that we think is playable on the Miami side? Like, Tyreek is so expensive. Edmonds, 4,800. Just like the ceiling isn't there, you know? Like, is Waddle a decent enough, like... I think Dalvin as a one-off probably makes more sense. So let's find a mini stack that we like here. Either a running back and wide receiver, something kind of unique. Preferably not in Arizona, Seattle, or Buffalo, KC. Edmonds if Minnesota gets out front. But like, what's Edmonds' ceiling? That's my problem. We haven't looked in the Sims in a while. Let's see if anything jumps out at us. Breece Hall. We didn't get a Breece. No, we did get a Breece Hall team. We didn't get our London share. But he was pretty more popular than I originally expected. Jeff Wilson. Just looking at some of the leverage options here. Njoku. We could have gotten Njoku on that one team too. I still really like Pittman. We probably can't fit a Pittman Kirk, can we? No. Pittman at 7K hurts. I mean, this Lamar to Andrews is tough. The Dalvin thing kind of handcuffs us, but right now I do like it. So we need some cheap. We need something cheap that we like. Something cheap that we like that's going to give us some leverage. We could go Adam Thielen, 5,900. Romeo Dubs. Njoku Myers opens up a lot. Okay, so let's think through this. Well, Njoku, Myers, I think, is somewhat interesting because we've already got Andrews in here. That Cleveland New England game, I didn't want to be like overexposed to, but this team isn't going to have Eno. This team isn't going to have Ramondre. So we could think of maybe this is a Myers. Maybe this could make sense as a Myers team. If we did want to go, we talked about JPP or not, or DS. I can never figure out how to say his name. Peoples Jones at 3,900. So just like that's like a unique little mini, that's for sure. Leverages us off in that game, leverages us off of Ramondre, and gives us a little bit more salary to work with, which we need horribly right now. If we did Henderson, gets us 4,900. Is this too much chalk? I don't know if it is. We got very low owned wide receivers. We got a low owned Dalvin. Seattle D will be unowned. Is this unique enough? Yeah, DPJ. I kind of like that. Hendo DJ. Does that actually fit DJ Moore? Very close. We could just add Duvernay to the stack. We're going to be all in on Duvernay. That's like the best option I see off the hop. It's probably just to add Duvernay to this. Is there anyone on Carolina that's playable? We don't have to go Hendo there. It's just an idea. I don't love that we have none of that Tampa Bay game, but I guess you got to make some concessions here. Is there anyone on Miami at that price point? Chase Edmonds. But then we have too many running backs. Demarcus Robinson. Get some bucks in there. Yeah, what? Let's see. Russell Gage. Godwin. So if we didn't go Henderson, is there another running back that we could go to that would free up a little bit more salary? I don't really want to play Eno on this team. But those guys are just like so strong. Do another. We already did a Breece Hall team who I like, who's pretty cheap. Let's just put Walker up at running back. And then we could go another wide receiver here, maybe. So we got about 5K for a mini. Pickens. Let's see what if we can get anything from this. Does that get us Godwin? No. 5,400. That gets us Rashad White. Gross. Can't get Fournette in there. Skinny with Duvernay and Prey. Yeah, I like that better as of now. Can't get in Pickens. I would have liked to have a nice little Tampa Bay mini somewhere. But this doesn't really work with this current build. How much is Henderson again? 5,100. Hang on. Hold my beer. No, we can't quite do that. If we play Panthers, aren't Panthers 24? Is this unique enough? So we get the Godwin Pickens. We move this one to Henderson. I don't like Henderson against Panthers D though. Oh gosh, you guys can't even see the team. Sorry, I'm moving all this stuff around. Here's what I'm messing with right now. So I got a Panther. I threw Panthers D in here because they were all that would fit if I did a Pickens Godwin mini. And then just a Henderson one-off. This one seems like maybe not enough correlation. But fix the screen. Yeah, my bad. Brady's wearing a Godwin shirt. Is that true? Oh, no. I kind of liked Pickens a bit, too. This makes some sense to me, this team, outside of the Panthers D. But that's all we can fit. Godwin Gentry. Maybe. And then we put Andrews in the flex. What does that give us with flexibility? See what happens if we go back to Seattle. That does open up a lot. That does open up a lot. Okay, you've convinced me. I'll do a Gentry team. So now we got 6,700 if we go back to Seahawks here for a running back only. CEH, how does this Buffalo KC game go bad? CEH runs in some touchdowns. Guess Kamara. What do we think? Take Dalvin out. Dalvin's staying. Joe Burrow showed up at today's game versus Saints with the Jamar Chase jersey. Kamara. This is actually decent. I think we can. This team is definitely unique enough, right? Because we already got Dalvin in there. Maybe this is a Kamara team. What do we think about this? So we got a Cardinals D, we got a Seahawks D, and a Buffalo D, because we're basically trying to figure out how to not walk right into that chalk. We got, I guess, the Lamar skinny with Andrews. Oh, I got to put Gent. And I guess it doesn't matter. Both those are 1 p.m. What do we think about this? I think the Gentry play opens up a ton. I'm glad we talked through that. Kamara, 6,700, just feels too cheap, right? We get Dalvin in here. So we just got like some high-end running backs that are going to be, I mean, Kamara's going to be chalk, obviously. Is this unique enough? Yeah, because people are going to be scared to play Godwin. I think this works.